Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Julio Gonzalez and welcome to the Federalist Pages. And today I want to talk to you about that horrible, disgusting display of journalistic unprofessionalism put forth by one Lesley Stahl from 60 Minutes in supposedly interviewing President Donald J. Trump. It was a disgusting display, and President Trump did the right thing in making sure, A, that he videotaped the whole thing in its entirety, and B, in releasing it. If there's one thing that President Trump continues to do is display the depth, the just broad spectrum of muck that is the swamp in Washington, and that includes the press. And Lesley Stahl really demonstrated that today. She went in with complete bias, with malicious intent. She just wanted to confront and embarrass the president, and she only ended up embarrassing herself. The interview began on poor footing when she asked the president, "Are you ready for some tough questions?" which can be a playful question. The president responded, I just want you to be fair." And of course, that led to the exchange, which is the bottom line problem that exists here, is not how tough the questions are. It's not necessarily even how unfair the interview is whether the same techniques are being used for both candidates. Here we have a situation, as President Trump tried to explain, he actually did explain, but Lesley wasn't listening, to Lesley Stahl, that only one candidate was getting so-called tough questions, and hers were not tough questions. They were discussing confrontations full of malice and ill intent. Here's an example on the economy. Lesley Stahl says, "Let me ask you what you think the biggest domestic priority is for you right now, Mr. President." "Well, ultimately, let me tell you, and I'll tell you what's happening. We created the greatest economy in the history of our country, and the other side was having..." You know that's not true. You know that's not true. An open confrontation, an open dismissal of what the president just said. It is totally true. No. Yeah, it is. And President Trump starts launching into some fact-based support for his position. And finally, Lesley Stahl says, "Well, I'm not going to fact-check you." And President Trump didn't give up. He kept on pressing. "No, well, you don't need to fact-check me. It's all true." And the truth is, and again, once again, he started talking about the stock market, about the low unemployment numbers for African Americans, low unemployment numbers for women. And Lesley Stahl would not have anything of it. It was a terrible, vindictive display. There was another situation that came up that was just as bad. The spying exchange. Donald Trump, Lesley, it's such a vicious thing that you just said. Lesley Stahl had just suggested that President Trump had said that he wanted the Michigan governor locked up. He never said any such thing. But she was trying to pin it on him by virtue of the fact that his supporters at rallies have been chanting, "Lock her up." And I think it's been in reference to Hillary Clinton, not even in reference to the governor of Michigan. Nevertheless, he said, "Look, it's such a vicious thing that you said to me. I would never say that." He says, "Well, why would I say that? Well, what about the Bidens?" Now, I thought he should have said, "Well, the Bidens should be locked up because they're as corrupt as I've ever seen." But I digress. He continued at that point, was still talking about how she's doing lockdowns. "Well, you want to lock up the Bidens?" "No, I don't want to lock them up, but they certainly should be looked at." "Obama, you want to lock up Biden? Obama?" "No, I don't want to lock him up, but he spied on my campaign." Here it comes. "Do you want to lock up Obama? And Biden spied on my campaign. Do you know what that is? You know what they did? Do you know how horrible it is what they did?" Well, that's never been verified. Well, it's never been verified for anybody who's not paying attention or has been sleeping in a basement for the past 6 months. It has absolutely been verified, and they got caught. The only thing that it has not happened is a prosecution. which, by the way, I'm really wanting to know why it hasn't happened. Because in point of fact, if this doesn't go unpunished, then what about the next president, Lesley? What about the next president of the United States? What are we going to see for him if the FBI doesn't agree with the election of that president? That was nothing short than a coup d'etat without the guns. One more, the laptop. This just blows my mind that the press, i.e., as evidenced by 60 Minutes, can be this blind to the events that are taking place before our very eyes. It's kind of like the emperor's not wearing any clothes and everybody, including the press, is saying that he is. Donald Trump. Instead of, why did Hunter get $3.5 million from Moscow? Instead of, why is an energy company paying your son $183,000 a month or whatever they're paying him, and he has no experience in energy? You discredit yourself. I don't have to discredit you. So this story, says Lesley Stahl, this story about Hunter and his laptop, some repair shop found it. The source is Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani. So, of course, what she's trying to suggest is that because Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani brought the story to light, it has no credibility. I don't know anything about that. I just know it's a laptop, and they haven't. And you're making this one of the hottest, most important issues. I don't know about the gentleman you mentioned. It is an important issue. It is a very important issue to find out whether or not a man is corrupt who's running for president, who accepts money from China, from the Ukraine, and from Russia. Yeah, I think it's an important issue. All these things have been investigated, says Lesley Stahl, and discredited. When? When have they been investigated and discredited, Ms. Stahl? Donald Trump replies, it's incredible the way you can try and say this, the way you can try and say this and sit here and look at me in the eye and say it. He accepted money, his family from Russia, from Ukraine, from China, from other places. His brother, who didn't have experience, became a big builder in Iraq without evidence. Take a look at what's going on, Lesley. And then you say that shouldn't be discussed? It's the biggest scandal out there, Lesley. And you think it's a big issue on the campaign? Yeah, it's the biggest scandal I've ever seen. Well, because it can't be verified, says Lesley. And then the president, of course, goes on to say there's a laptop. And she goes on to say that the laptop means nothing because the laptop came from, I don't know, from Giuliani. This is ridiculous. The blinders that these people have on are nothing short of nefarious. I remember when I was in school, many of you were too, when you used to read about John Updike and the muckrakers and the pride that the press took in unpeeling corruption and uncovering it so that the rest of us could see it. Now, the press is only interested in covering up for their favorite dudes. If the press doesn't straighten out, our country, ladies and gentlemen, is in for a big amount of trouble. My name is Dr. Julio Gonzalez. Thank you for listening. Please check us out at thefederalistpages.com. God bless you, and I'll see you for the next one.